Dreams. We all dream, but only a handful of us get to see our dreams fulfilled. And only a select few of those dreams change the world. So what exactly does it take to be the kind of person whose dreams that kind of dream? Israel is well recognized as being the startup nation, a nation of dreamers and dream fulfillers. And when I started thinking about how the inception of the Zionist dream took place in this very spot 125 years ago, I realized that here, in Basel, the seed for the startup nation was planted. Tonight, I invite you to take a closer look at how one passionate dreamer managed to make the Jewish people's longing for a homeland come true in a way that closely resembles a startup's life. Like every startup, it began with a bold idea that emerged from the need for a solution to the ongoing anti-Semitism in Europe. The Dreyfus trial was a pivotal moment that made the urgency of finding a solution very clear, especially to one reporter who covered the trial. Meet Theodor Herzl, the founder and CEO of Zionism.com. His vision was born after 3 weeks of meticulous writing, whereby he created Der Judenstaat, or in English, the State of the Jews, a detailed business plan describing the challenges of the Jewish people, while offering a comprehensive solution, the establishment of a modern state based on the rights of the Jewish people to self-determination in their historical land. Herzl had the characteristics of an entrepreneur: the audacity, the stubbornness, the chutzpah, and of course he was rocking this hipster beard, as we can all see. Not everyone likes a dreamer, but a real entrepreneur needs to filter out all those background noises and just focus. A little bit, oh, there we go. There. Now that is much better. Okay, so what do you do when a once-in-a-lifetime idea pops into your head? You do the research. You do the market analysis, and you go hunting for investors, VCs or angels. And that is exactly what Herzl did. He met with sultans, he met with barons, he met with presidents, only to find out that his supporters would actually be crowdfunding, and that he would have to reignite the flames of self-esteem and belief in the hearts of the Jewish people that had been more or less extinguished during their 2,000-year exile. So, how do you invite people pre-internet era? You send an announcer.
בזה נבקש אותך, אדון נכבד, ואת חבריך שבחוגך, שתואיל לבוא לבאזל ולהשתתף באספתנו. הקונגרס הראשון שלנו הוא התל, שהכל פונים אליו. אוהבים ואויבים מחכים לו בעיניים כלות. אנו מדברים שתדעו את חובתכם ותבואו לאספתנו. באספה אפשר יהיה לדבר עברית בשם הוועד להכנת הקונגרס הציוני.
In 1897, in Basel, Switzerland, just 1 year after the initial seed was planted, Herzl convened the First Zionist Congress, or, if you will, the first investors meeting. The energy in the room was overpowering. Just close your eyes for a second, just for a second, and imagine that you're here 125 years ago. And you see Herzl walk in. 15 minutes of clapping and cheering, standing ovations, and a loud Shehecheyanu blessings. That was how the First Zionist Congress began. Luckily for you, we won't make you wait the entire 15 minutes. But it was then, as it is now, one of the most important milestones in the history of the Jewish people. They came from 16 different countries, 208 believers of the Zionist dream who joined after one man's vision. Herzl asked them to show up in formal attire with tails and white ties because he said, if you want to be taken seriously, you have to dress seriously. And indeed, serious it was. On the second day of the new startup's business plan was presented to all the delegates and aptly titled the Basel Program. Okay, so let's go over the essentials when you are building a brand, or in this case, a state. What do you need? First of all, you need an idea, all right? A Jewish home in a Jewish state. Second, we need a slogan. If you will it, it is no dream. A logo, a blue and white flag with a Star of David in the center. Although the CEO wanted 7 stars, but a good CEO listens to his team. An anthem, Hatikva. A catchy acronym, WZO, World Zionist Organization. And a founder and a CEO, Theodor Herzl. The brand is ready to be born. On September 3rd, 1897, Herzl wrote this in his diary. At Basel, I founded the Jewish state. If I were to say this out loud now, I would be greeted with universal laughter. In 5 years perhaps, but certainly in 50, everyone will perceive it. So, now that they had a brand, our CEO and partners needed to ensure that the infrastructure was not only stable, but also resilient. They founded the Jewish Colonial Trust in 1899 and the Jewish National Fund in 1901 to manage the Zionist Organization's financing and the purchase of lands. From its inception, all the investors had a share in the stocks. Membership to the Zionist Organization was open to all Jews, and the right to vote for delegates and the Congress was secured by the purchase of the Zionist shekel. Now, over the next few years, the development phase would include endless board meetings and the raising of capital and considering and reconsidering and considering again all their options, like the Uganda plan, which was suggested to Herzl as an alternative to the homeland by the British government. And the year that followed were very challenging, and the struggles for the young startup first and foremost came with the unexpected and early death of its founder. But a strong seed planted is destined to grow. The following Congresses after Herzl's death kept fulfilling his vision under the leadership of Volson and Sokolov and Weizmann and others. And as the years went by, more and more global support was shown towards the idea of a Jewish state. Even 2 world wars, hunger, pogroms, and the greatest tragedy that our people have ever endured could not prevent the idea from becoming a reality. The establishment of a state of Israel on May 14th, 1948.
United States? Yes. Yemen? No. Yugoslavia? Yes.
And I therefore formally declare Israel admitted to membership in the United Nations.
תוקף זכותנו הטבעית וההיסטורית ועל יסוד החלטת עצרת האומות המאוחדות אנו מכריזים בזאת על הקמת מדינה יהודית בארץ ישראל, היא מדינת ישראל.
ושוב אדוני את שיבת ציון, היינו כחולמים. Like Moses before him, Herzl brought us to the promised land, helped us regain our self-esteem, and showed us that yes, we can. He had turned a vision into a political movement that swept not only the Jewish people, but the entire world. And he did one more thing. He paved the way for all us entrepreneurs in all our endeavors, and he turned the entire nation into dreamers with the ability to make our dreams come true. Because as he once told us, if you will it. It is no dream.
Distinguished guests, please welcome your host for the evening, journalist, anchorwoman, and Ola Chadasha to Israel, Natasha Kirtchuk.
A big round of applause to Yiftach Ophir and the incredible musicians who accompanied him. And thank you so much for that warm introduction. Honorable President of the State of Israel, Isaac Herzog, and the First Lady, Michal Herzog. Federal Council of Switzerland, Minister of Economic Affairs, Education, and Research, Guy Parmelin. President of the Canton of Basel, Beat Jans. Minister of Diaspora Affairs, Nachman Shai. The list goes on, my friends. The head of the Jewish communities in Switzerland, the SIG, Ralph Levine. The delegation of Knesset members from Israel and the delegation of mayors from Israel. Israeli ambassador to Switzerland, Ifat Reshef. Sheikh Moavach Tarif, the spiritual leader of the Druze in Israel. Chairman of the Jewish National Fund, Avraham Duvdevani. Chairman of the Jewish Agency, General Doron Almog. Chairman of the Board of Governors of the Jewish Agency, Mark Wilf. World Chairman of United Israel Appeal, Sam Grundwerg. Chairperson of the Zionist General Council, Helena Glaser. Vice Chairman of the World Zionist Organization, Dr. Izar Es. Organizations and members of the World Zionist Organization. Organizations and members of the Zionist Action Committee. And Jewish leaders from all around the world. I am honored to be standing here tonight in Stadtcasino, where 125 years ago, true giants inaugurated the First Zionist Congress. In the past 4 years, the Stadtcasino was renovated, but as you can see, it's kept its original character. Herzl rented this venue a mere 2 days before the Congress opened, after deciding that the first venue he had selected just wasn't lavish enough. He then rented out the most elegant venue in Basel, where we have the honor of sitting tonight. My name is Natasha. I made Aliyah 6 years ago, 6.5. I'm a proud Zionist, and I'm even prouder to be your host this evening. Tonight, not only will we go back in time to all of the monumental events that shaped our nation, but we will also peer into the future and take a look at the many challenges and tasks that await us. When Herzl set out to find that perfect location for the first Congress, he traveled between several European capitals. In fact, this landmark event almost took place in Munich. Still, it was ultimately the city of Basel that agreed to host the Congress. And as a result, the history of Israel and Switzerland have been entwined ever since. It is on this essential note that I invite our very first speaker of the night, the president of the government of the Canton of Basel-Stadt, Mr. Beat Jans.
Welcome in Basel, dear Mr. President, dear Mr. Federal Councillor, dear Mr. Chairman of the World Zionist Organization, ladies and gentlemen. That the First Zionist Congress in 1897 could be held in Basel was not simply a matter of course. Anti-Semitism was growing, the Dreyfus Affair was ongoing, and just 4 years before, the Swiss population had voted for an anti-Semitic motivated referendum banning Shechita. Nevertheless, the liberally minded government in Basel showed itself to be more open and made it possible what was inconceivable in Vienna, in Munich, or even in Zurich. They were sympathetic to the idea of Zionism and offered this location, the Stadtcasino's music hall, as the conference site for the approximately 200 Congress participants. It was at the Stadtcasino that the delegates approved the Basel program, which planned for the creation of a publicly recognized, legally secured homeland in Palestine for the Jewish people. As the city proved itself to be reliable as a location, 9 further congresses were held in Basel, including the last congress before the founding of the state. And one of the most iconic pictures of Herzl was taken in Basel. It depicts Herzl in 1901 on the balcony of the Hotel Drei Könige against the backdrop of the Middle Bridge. These milestones have made Basel into an important memorial site for the Jewish community and the history of Zionism. To act as a host for the celebration of the 120th anniversary of the First Zionist Congress is another expression of the special connection between Basel and Israel. And on behalf of the government and the population of Basel, I congratulate the World Zionist Congress, the Swiss Federation of Jewish Communities, and the Israeli government on this significant anniversary. Although Basel's location bordering France and Germany fosters openness and tolerance, it does not necessarily protect against anti-Semitism. During the Nazi period, Basel pursued a more humane refugee policy than Switzerland as a whole. However, repatriations and expulsions of Jewish people took place in Basel as well. People were sent to their death due to the indifference of authorities. But facing this past and documenting each individual case is our moral obligation today. And towards the future, we stand firmly and publicly in opposition to anti-Semitism and the disregard for human rights. Our nation's political neutrality demands that we foster dialogue to achieve peaceful resolutions. Since the First Zionist Congress, Basel has continually attempted to meet this responsibility. Basel has, in 1912, hosted socialists from around the world. They gathered at the Münster to make a stand against impeding war at a peace congress organized by the Second International. Also, Basel hosted many meetings for the Hertenstein program, which conceptualized and promoted the idea of a European federation for a peaceful Europe. And in 2014, Basel hosted the conference of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe with the goal of easing tensions and promoting peace in eastern Ukraine. This conference was awarded the Ewald von Kleist Award for Peace and Dialogue. But as we all know, the democratic and peaceful coexistence achieved during this conference could not be permanently secured. This also goes for Zionism, which could not realize all the goals as the principal actors initially imagined. Peaceful coexistence between Israelis and Palestinians remains a remote prospect. Current events in particular have made this clear. Still, setbacks and disappointments should not discourage us and cannot prevent us from continuing to pursue the path of dialogue and the search for sustainable solutions. Basel remains a constant partner, providing a place for dialogue and exchange on the path towards peace. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for your impactful words, Mr. Jans. Now, in our opening performance, we paid a visit to the past, but throughout this evening, we'd like to see whether Zionism and leadership are passed on through our genes. And there's no better way to explore this issue than with the help of several descendants of some of the most key figures in Zionism. Through their stories, we will try to understand what effect their famous ancestors have had on their lives. I would like to invite our first descendant on stage tonight, Dr. Thomas Zweifel, the grandson of Dr. David Strauss, a Swiss delegate to the very first Zionist Congress. Thomas.
I'm a big fan of you.
I'm a big fan of yours. All right. Now, your grandfather played a key role in this historic event. But what's
great-grandfather.
Great-grandfather. Great-grandfather. But what's interesting is that you were not raised Jewish. And it seems that only after the horrific events of 9/11 did you reconnect to that Jewish identity. Can you tell us a little bit about that story?
Yeah, I'm sitting on 9/11. I'm sitting 200 meters from the World Trade Center. And the planes fly in, both planes. And the next day, I'm sitting there again to grieve for the dead. And the rabbi comes up to me, it's just before Rosh Hashanah, and he says, "Are you Jewish?" And I was told by my mother at the age of 16 that I'm Jewish, so I grew up secular. But on that day, I was so vulnerable and so shaken up that I said, "Yes, I'm Jewish." And he said, "Would you like to tie tefillin?" I said, "I've never done it in my life. Today seems like a good day to start." So we tied tefillin. I was scared to death that if people found out that I'm Jewish, that they would kill me. But I said to myself, and so what? I would rather be dead. It sounds dramatic, but I would rather be dead than not be myself.
Well, Let's see your great-grandfather right now on screen. This is him. Look at that, everybody. That is Dr. David Strauss. And look at where you're standing today. It's not your first time. We're going to actually show a little clip of you. You know, today you lecture about leadership. You're an important part of Keren HaYesod. In fact, you even gave a lecture at this very venue last year. Let's take a look at it.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends of the State of Israel, my name is Thomas Zweifel, and I stand before you in these hallowed halls where, as the ambassador said, Theodor Herzl created, in his own words, the Jewish state. And it's very, very moving for me because I'm just reminded now that my great-grandfather, Dr. David Strauss, actually attended the First Zionist Congress in 1897 in this hall. And so it's a very moving privilege for me to stand before you.
Well, here we are again. Thomas, I'd like to know, how much of your leadership do you believe is rooted in your ancestry? And how does your identity impact the work that you do today?
Well, Rabbi Zusha in the 18th century said, if I remember correctly, in the world to come, I shall not be asked, why were you not Moses? Or why were you not Abraham? I shall be asked, why were you not Zusha? And so I'm not supposed to ask myself, why was I not Herzl? Or why was I not David Strauss? But what can I do as Thomas? And I want to ask that of everybody in this room. You know, if you look at leadership theory, leadership has flattened. The world has flattened. We now have, each of us, a chance to shape the future like never before. This was not true at Herzl's time. So the question is, what future do you want to bring about? What future can I bring about? And I'm going to ask you to close your eyes for a second and actually think the next 125 years. It's going to be the year 2147. What's the future that you may not live to see? Like Moses, like Herzl did not, like my great-grandfather, we did not see it, but it will come about because you will live the future today.
Thomas, thank you so much for your inspiring words, your story, just unbelievable.
3 kisses in Switzerland.
Wow. All right. I am now pleased to invite the head of the Federal Department of Economic Affairs, Education and Research, Federal Counselor Guy Parmelin.
Mr. President, First Lady, Minister President of the Government of Basel, members of the Government of Basel, members of the Israeli and Swiss Parliament, President of the Swiss Federation of Jewish Communities and the World Zionist Organization, ladies and gentlemen. Switzerland has a long Jewish history dating back to Roman times, so spanning centuries. We say this with pride, but our common history is tarnished with dark chapters that make us ashamed. In the Middle Ages, anti-Jewish communities were eradicated in Switzerland too, and the Jews were only afforded the same rights as Christian citizens far too late. At the end of the 19th century, political movements fomented hatred against the Jews, making it a central element of their programs. In Germany, racial anti-Semitism grew stronger, and the Dreyfus Affair in France demonstrated that Jewish emancipation was in no way complete. Bloody pogroms took place in Eastern Europe. Many Jewish Swiss are the descendants of migrants who fled this murderous wave of hatred against the Jews. Against this background, Theodor Herzl came to the sobering conclusion that Jewish emancipation would remain unfulfilled and that anti-Semitism would never disappear. That is the historical context in which we find ourselves when we speak of 29 August 1897. Political and social exclusion and the need to protect the Jewish people from persecution and extermination are at the origins of the Zionist Congress, which took place here in Basel 125 years ago, and which we are celebrating today. Israel is now 75 years young. In this short time, despite the most adverse circumstances, despite external threats, the country has become an important member of the international community. Bilateral relations between Switzerland and Israel are excellent. We enjoy close cooperation in the areas of culture, business, and science. In one respect, Israel and Switzerland are very similar. We both invest above average in education, in creating knowledge, in creating something new for us and for the world. As a government minister, whose portfolio also includes innovation, Israel impresses above all as a startup nation. Herzl's vision, formulated here 125 years ago, is a reality today. The self-determination of the Jewish people has today become a self-determined Jewish state. As a member of the federal government, it is important for me at this point to also address the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination. In the Swiss government's view, only a negotiated two-state solution can bring about a just and lasting peace between Israelis and Palestinians. We friends of the State of Israel can assert the right of the Palestinians to self-determination without taking the path of Jewish self-determination out of context, without reinterpreting the First Zionist Congress of Basel, without delegitimizing Zionism and thus the State of Israel. It is our task to recognize where criticism is justified and where it is misused in an anti-Semitic way. As a representative of the federal government, I can assure you that we are fully committed to the fight against anti-Semitism. In doing so, we are protecting our Swiss values. We are protecting what makes Switzerland Swiss, our diversity. Jewish citizens have always shaped and enriched Switzerland. So when we state that Jewish life has existed in Switzerland for centuries, this is also an obligation. We know why the Zionist Congress took place 125 years ago. The memory is a warning to us all. We never want to lose our Jewish community because otherwise a part of us would be lost. We would want to show Theodor Herzl that today Jewish emancipation in Switzerland is complete and that tolerance exists. Switzerland is also a Jewish Switzerland. The Zionist Congress is part of Switzerland's history. On that note, I would like to congratulate you and us on this anniversary, on this historic day. Thank you for your attention.
Congratulations, a new state is born. When our startup becomes a reality, the World Zionist Organization and its sister organizations are faced with several minor challenges in establishing an independent nation. They must gather the Jewish people together from the four corners of the world. They must also get the new immigrants settled when they arrive in Israel, and provide them with jobs and develop spiritual life and culture here in Israel. And at the same time, continue to fight anti-Semitism and strengthen the bond between the Jewish people. Simply put, be responsible for all life challenges of the Jewish people in Israel and the diaspora. So, how does one even begin? Let's see.
תוקף זכותנו הטבעית וההיסטורית ועל יסוד החלטת עצרת האומות המאוחדות אנו מכריזים בזאת על הקמת מדינה יהודית בארץ ישראל, היא מדינת ישראל.
הצליחו הלוחמים להרוג את המחבלים, לשחרר את החטופים ולהביאם לישראל.
אנחנו במפה ואנחנו נשארים במפה, לא רק בספורט והכל.
The World Zionist Organization was established 125 years ago. From that day on, it fulfilled and continues to fulfill the Zionist dream. Challenges have always been and will always be, but we are not afraid to take them on. Israel 2022, are you listening? We have only just begun.
Bravo! Thank you so much, Yiftach. And what a performance by that string quartet. I get chills every time I hear them. And a special thank you, of course, to the chairman of the World Zionist Organization, Mr. Yaakov Chagorel. And to the World Zionist Organization and all of its affiliates, and for all of your inspiring work from the very first day of the very first Congress to this very day. Since its very first day, the Zionist movement was, in many respects, progressive and innovative. And in one of those ways, it was the stance toward women. Many female delegates attended the first Congress, and they were given the right to vote from the second Congress onward. Now, this was revolutionary. To give you a sense, in the United States, women were only allowed to start voting in 1920. In Spain, women weren't allowed to vote until 1933, and in France, it took all the way until 1944. The fact that women could vote so early on in the Zionist movement enabled them to contribute immensely to the Zionist vision, and of course, the shaping of the State of Israel. And we want to take a few moments to salute all these brave, ingenious women who have changed and are still changing our world for the better. On the harmonica, we have Ariel Bart, alongside our lovely singer, Daniela Lugassi, and up on the screens, pure inspiration.
Herzl's Zionist vision was revolutionary in more than one facet. Decades before women were given the right to vote, the Zionist movement treated its female delegates as equal. This enabled Jewish women worldwide to play an integral role in promoting Zionist ideas, values, and venture. These admirable women devoted their lives to the health and well-being of the Jewish people in their homeland, often leaving behind successful careers and loved ones. They gave their all to pursue the Zionist dream. Were forced to overcome immense challenges in the relentless fight for a Jewish state. After the young nation was born, women continued their glorious quest for the advancement of Israel and its people.
This is my quest to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into
since continued to take center stage, represent and promote Israel in various fields. They founded charities and philanthropic organizations aiming at empowering young women, changing their lives and Israeli society for the better. The Zionist vision continues to evolve and face new challenges. But thanks to all these trailblazing women, we're sure to reach new peaks, overcome challenges, and reach that unreachable star.
Thank you so much, Ariel and Daniela. I couldn't be prouder to be a woman. I don't know about all the women in the crowd watching this. And speaking of powerful female visionaries, I would now like to invite to the stage Mrs. Yael Perl Ruiz. Just wait for this introduction. Yael, thank you so much for joining us. You are the great-granddaughter of Alfred Dreyfus.
Yes, I am one of the great-granddaughter of Alfred Dreyfus. Yes.
That's right, the French officer whose trial became emblematic of modern-day anti-Semitism and made Herzl realize the need for an immediate solution to the hatred against Jews. What were you told about your great-grandfather who's right behind us at home?
Well, actually, in my home, in my family, we were not talking so much about Alfred and Lucy, but he was there all the time. I mean, then when I was young, I had to be very strong. I couldn't complain for small things because he was very stoic. So I've been told that he was incredible, that he was a nice grandfather, but that his life has been destroyed. His life and his career has been destroyed by all what happened to him. It was terrible.
So what was the approach to Zionism at home?
Okay. Okay, Alfred Dreyfus' family was very patriotic French. So my mother is the granddaughter of Alfred and Lucy. But she married with how do you say, with a Transylvanian man, who is my father, and my father was very Zionist. My father knew Ben Gurion because he worked a lot for the Aliyah Bet, and he was hiding some people from the Haganah and saying that they were madrichim for children. And even one day they catch him. The French people from the DGSE catch him, and they convoke him, and they told him that it's okay, he can do it, but he has to be very careful that the English people, they will not see. So he was very Zionist, and I've been, I mean, I know that he would be very happy that I made Aliyah 1.5 years ago. And
which brings me to my next question.
Yeah.
It's my understanding that you now do work to commemorate Dreyfus in a variety of different ways. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, actually it's not now. It's been some years ago. Well, all my life I've done it because it's very important for me. I understood very young how important it was to give memory to what happened. First of all, because I didn't want that it happened again. So second of all, because you have a lot of things to learn about Dreyfus Affair. You can learn about justice, about the justice winning on the state reason, and you can also learn about engagement.
And there's also a
but
statue as well.
Yeah, but the most important thing that I want to say is like my uncles and my mother always were fighting to establish the image of Alfred Dreyfus. Because Alfred Dreyfus has been always shown as a very bad man, very antipathic, and it was not true. So all our life we work to establish this image. It was important.
And so you brought a statue of Dreyfus. Let's see that video.
Yes. It was very important for me because I figurate that the Israeli young people, they don't know very well about Dreyfus Affair. So I wanted my great-grandfather to have a feet in Israel, and that's why I bring this statue. So the statue now is in Echad Ha'am, in the corner of Herzl, and with the French Institute on top of it, so it's very symbolic, and it is part of the Independence Trail. So I'm very happy because all the students, they are going to see it and to speak about it. So it's important.
Thank you so much for joining us, the great-granddaughter of Dreyfus. Yael, yet another inspiring female powerhouse. Now, Herzl wrote his acclaimed manuscripts, all filled with his dreams and ideas more than a century ago. Yet, when you read them today, they're as relevant now as they were back then. And even if he's no longer with us, his writings let his voice be heard to this very day. And tonight, we're going to try to find in these very writings the answer to the most pressing issues of our hectic reality, simply by asking, what would Herzl say?
Well, I would probably say that it is definitely not a dream anymore, thanks to you, because you have achieved it. Thank you.
We sure did, Theodor. Nice of you to join us.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for inviting me. It is so exciting to be back again here in the Stadtcasino in Basel. I love what you've done with the place. It's absolutely, it's the same, to tell you the truth. But seriously, so many beautiful and proud Zionists in one room. This really takes me back to 1897. Truly remarkable.
Now, I know that you like the balcony, but why don't you come down right here to the stage?
With pleasure, my dear.
תביט אל הישר אל העיניים בימין זאב תביט אל הישר אל העיניים כמו אבא אוהב אני לוקח שטר של 100 מביט על התמונה אני מביט היטב עליך חוזה המדינה יהודי יקר כזה עם זקן עד החזה יהודי כל כך רזה מאיפה יש לו כוח להיות חוזה
It's so great to be back. Whew. It is a great honor to be here in this room with the president of the Jewish state, Mr. Yitzhak Herzog, and his beautiful wife, Michal. I, in Basel, in this very room, founded the Jewish state. And you, Mr. Herzog, as we speak, are leading the Jewish people B'Medinat Israel, Be'eretz Israel. And to tell you the truth, I don't know who had a harder job. By the way, you all have regards from David Ben-Gurion, David Wolfson, Menachem Osishkin, all the greats, but not from Echad Ha'am. He still isn't speaking to me.
Well, I think it's time for you to sit down. I mean, we really do have a couple of pressing questions for you, Herzl, tonight, so we're going to need you to sit down right there. All right, so, you know, first of all, I think one of our biggest questions is, what do you think of the perception of Zionism as the first startup?
Well, The Jews, as a matter of fact, had long been all along the most ingenious entrepreneurs. It was only our own future that was never built based on a business plan.
Well, luckily that's changed since then. So Israel being the startup nation and even the scale-up nation doesn't really surprise you, does it?
Well, of course not. The word impossible already seems to have ceased to exist in the vocabulary of technical science.
Well, the time is short, and we have so many things that we'd like to ask you about. So let's deep dive straight into the present day. Sadly, the Jewish state did not bring an end to anti-Semitism. In fact, it's still on the rise. 2021 was a record year in anti-Semitic incidents in Australia, the United Kingdom, and the United States. You can see that right here behind us. What do you think about the rising anti-Semitism?
So, anti-Semitism has always intrigued me. Ever since I was a very young boy, it literally kept me up at nights. But I believe I managed to bring a fresh perspective to the subject. You see, I put a mirror onto the faces of state leaders when I explained to them that as long as a portion of their society is of unequal status, their nations will never truly flourish.
That's right, you changed the perception. Instead of lobbying and asking leaders for sympathy and support, you took a brave and political position, that of a people demanding what it deserves. So, do you think that we should change our current strategy of combating anti-Semitism?
Well, I think the Jewish question is as social as it is a religious one. It is a national or even an international question that can only be solved by making it a global political question to be discussed and settled in council by the civilized nations.
So you're basically saying that we should create a global forum to fight anti-Semitism. Interesting. Though I must admit that joining hands and working together is becoming increasingly challenging, especially given the ever-growing gaps between classes in our world. And I'd love to hear your opinion on that, your thoughts on that.
So, never before has the world been so rich, and never before has there been so much poverty. In my book, Alt Neuland, I write that though I'm not against competition, I do believe that everyone's starting point should be the same for everyone. Just like in sports, every new generation gets a fresh start, a new chance to succeed in life regardless of their parents' class or wealth.
I couldn't agree more. And as we all know, education is one of the most basic ingredients to success. Still to this day, some enjoy the fruits of private education while others are left behind with little or sometimes even no access to education at all. What would you say to that?
So, education, without a doubt, is a key factor in success in life. I'll even take it a step forward and say that a good education is a human right. That's why I believe that all educational institutes must be free of charge, including universities. What I will never agree with is discrimination between humans. I do not ask which race or religion a certain human being belongs to. He or she or they has to be a human being, a mensch, and that is all that's important to me.
Fascinating stuff, Theodor. Now, yeah, let's give him a round of applause for that. Now, let me ask you about the future of Judaism. How can we keep our unity in this ever-changing world?
So first of all, it's crucial to remember that we are one people. One people. Yes, it's okay to clap now. I wish I had that kind of consent back then. So, I strongly believe that the most worthy mission at this point in time is to unite Jews wherever they may be.
Amen. Amen. Let this night be the first step in fulfilling that vision. Now, before you leave us, any word of advice on how we should proceed with the fulfillment of your vision?
Well, Zionism, as I understand it, includes not only the aspiration for a legally secure and happy homeland for our people, but it's also the desire for moral and spiritual perfection. I think we'd all agree that we still have a way to go to get there, but nevertheless, I am optimistic. I believe that a new generation of wonderful Jews will grow out of the earth and the Maccabees will rise again. And if I may, a last word of advice. Dream. Dream and act. The dream is not as far from action as most tend to think. Remember, all people's actions were once a dream, and all people's actions will someday be a dream. So if you will excuse me, I have to upload my selfie pictures to the book face or the Telegram or whatever it is.
You almost got it.
I remind you, I'm still a journalist. I need to document everything. So thank you so much for having me. I hope you have a delightful evening with your host, Natasha. Thank you and good evening. Toda. Toda. Toda.
Such inspiring words. These were truly quotes by the great man himself, Theodor Herzl, ladies and gentlemen. All right, it is now time for our third descendant to join us right here on stage, Mrs. Lior Heshin. Come on up. Lior, thank you so much for joining us. All you have to do is speak right into that mic. You can't hear me? No, you just put it right up to your mouth, and we'll ask you a couple of questions. So, Lior, you are the granddaughter of Lib Yaffe. He attended the First Zionist Congress, and then he served as head of Keren HaYesod. But tragically, your grandfather was killed in a terrorist attack, a car bombing by terrorists in the National Institution's house. One may assume that this event has shaped your life, correct?
Yeah.
Tell us about that. Speak into the microphone closely.
First of all, I'm so proud and thrilled to stand here. I think I'm a dream. I think I'm dreaming. And I came to tell you about a very, very young delegate. By the way, he was the youngest one, 20 years old, in the First Zionist Congress. And then he used to come to each Congress till he died. He was very, very active as a Zionist. And since 1926, he was the head of Keren HaYesod. Keren HaYesod in 1948, March 11, someone brought a car bomb, and the truth is it was intended to kill Ben-Gurion. It was put under the office of Ben-Gurion, and but someone moved it, not knowing what it is, and it ruined all the offices of Keren HaYesod. 12 people were killed, including my grandfather, and 44 people were wounded. Yeah, I know your mother was.
So how do you continue his journey, his vision? How do you continue his vision?
How do I what?
How do you continue his vision?
Yeah. I thought of it because you asked me. All our family is connected to the Zionist idea. My father was a shaliach. I don't know how you say shaliach in whatever. Shaliach in Canada for 2 years.
A representative.
He worked many, many years in the Jewish Agency. He was head of the Foreign Relations Office. I was in the army. My son and daughter were in the Israeli army. Now, these days, my granddaughter is in the most dangerous place in the army, in Gaza. And
well, Liora, I'd like to thank you so much for joining us on stage. just incredible to hear your story, to hear the story of your great-grandfather. By the way, there are also descendants who are sitting in the audience today as well. It's an honor that they're here with us too. I'd like to thank all of the descendants who came up on stage and spoke with us tonight. You are all part of ensuring that Zionism lives on. Let's give a round of applause to all of the descendants here with us tonight. I'd like to take a moment in this festive evening to acknowledge that living as free people in our homeland often has come with the dearest of costs. More than 24,000 IDF soldiers have given their life so we can continue to live in Israel in prosperity and in peace. We'd like to say a prayer for the welfare of Israel, written by the President of Israel's grandfather and his namesake, First Chief Rabbi of the State of Israel, Isaac Halevi Herzog.
תפילה לשלום המדינה. אבינו שבשמיים, צור ישראל וגואלו, ברך את מדינת ישראל, ראשית צמיחת גאולתנו. הגן עליה בעברת חסדך ופרוס עליה סוכת שלומך, ושלח אורך ועמיתך לראשיה, שריה ויועציה, ותגנם בעצה טובה מלבניך. חזק את ידי מגיני ארץ קודשנו, והנחילם אלוהינו ישועה ועטרת ניצחון תעטרם, ונתת שלום בארץ, ושימחת עולם ליושביה.
Everyone can now be seated. We've taken a trip down memory lane, looking back on the significant chapters in our history that have led us to where we are now. We've learned about the challenges still facing us and how much more that is yet to be done. And we've realized that to accomplish all of this, we must first preserve the unity and the love of Israel. If we achieve this, there's nothing that we cannot do. It is now my pleasure to invite the wondrous Daniela Lugassi back again to the stage to unite us all in love.
כל העולם כולו גשר צר מאוד, גשר צר מאוד, גשר צר מאוד. כל העולם כולו גשר צר מאוד, גשר צר מאוד. אזי מלך
so much. The wonderful Daniela Lugasi, I'll squeeze in here right next to you. And of course, all of you have joined her up here on stage. Now, let us sing together in one voice our national anthem, Hatikva. I ask the audience to please rise.
Kol od balevav penima nefesh Yehudi homia ulfatei mizrach kadima ein letzion Sophia od lovda tikvateinu hatikva bat shnot alpayim liot am chofshi בארצנו ארץ ציון וירושלים להיות עם חופשי בארצנו ארץ ציון וירושלים.
Distinguished guests, at this time I wish to thank His Excellency, the President of the State of Israel, Isaac Herzog, and the First Lady, Michael Herzog, for participating in today's event. I also ask the audience to please stand in honor as they exit.
We would be pleased to send a complimentary DVD of this program to anyone who wishes to support JBS with a tax-deductible gift of $36, double high or more. Simply visit the JBS website at jbstv.org and click on the Donate button to make a donation by PayPal or your credit card. And please indicate the program for which you would like a DVD. Or you can send your tax-deductible check to JBS, Post Office Box 360, Stamford, Connecticut 06904. Or you can call the JBS Pledge Line at 833-MY-JBS-TV. That's 833-695-2788. And again, please remember to indicate which program you would like to receive with our compliments. We thank you for your kind support.